Hi, I'm Ryan Szymanski, curator for Battleship New Jersey Museum and Memorial. And today we've got something similar to a picture's worth 1,000 words. We actually found a scan online of the 1944 Booklet of General Plans for Missouri. I've never seen the World War II era Booklet of General Plans for an Iowa-class battleship. I've never seen the originals for them. I've seen some 1950s plans for Missouri and Wisconsin. I've seen a 60s plan for New Jersey, and of course, the 80s plans for a couple of the ships. So it was really exciting seeing a scan of this online. It's a rather big file, so in the description below, we're either going to have the PDF of the scan that you can just download, or if YouTube doesn't want us doing that because of its size, it might just be a link to where you can click and download it yourself. Anyway, great document. If you download it, we can go through it together here. We're only going to cover the top 1 or 2 pages. Very interesting. I was just flipping through it for the first time. We found another damage control locker, which pointed to where one still is on New Jersey that we didn't know about. Remember, we did a video, probably 2 years ago, about how we have way more damage control lockers than we're supposed to? Well, we're still finding them. There's so many. Other thing to note when you're pointing this out, on the first page, so I guess it'll be the second page that we're really looking at. At the first page has a list of dates that's corrected. October 1 of 1941, which is around when this ship would have been authorized. So this would have started out looking fairly similar to a base Iowa class. It's updated a few months later in January of 42, April of 42, July of 42, almost a full year later, March of 43. At this point, Iowa has entered service and they're starting to find class issues that they can correct. June of 43, at this point, New Jersey's in service and they've started making changes. And then January of 44, which is starting to get around the point when Missouri is completed. However, this plan does not perfectly reflect Missouri as she's completed. There are a couple of features on it that definitely go back to the older pair of Iowas, and there's at least one feature that shows that this plan is a modification of the Iowa plan, and they left some Iowa-specific features on there. So, very cool. Go through these plans, see if you can find any differences between what the plan says and how the ship was actually commissioned. Let us know in the comment section down below. We might do a video later where we talk about that more in the future. But just further information that a plan is just a plan. It does not necessarily show you what is accurate. So at this point, we are on, it is page 2 of the Booklet of General Plans. It is page 3 of this particular PDF. And it's really just a list of numbers for things. You've got the general dimensions in the top left corner. Below that, you've got heights of various platforms and things. That's all good information to have. I use that sort of information off our current Booklet of General Plans all the time. The list of mast lights. Not too long ago, we did a video talking about masthead lights. There might be a link to that in the description below if we can find it. We've made too many videos. What else do we have? The thing I really want to focus on is the general data for the ship's complement. But let me see if there's anything else here I want. Oh, and the number of beds on board. But let's bypass that right now and keep on flipping over. We're heading to the right of the page. Oh, it has a list of the ship's boats. Yeah, it's not surprising. In wartime, it is only showing 4 boats, even though there are a bunch of blank lines on there for additional boats that she would have carried in peacetime. Compare this with the 1950 Missouri Booklet of General Plan of her just before the Korean War and see how many boats she carried at that time in peacetime. Why wouldn't she carry them in World War II? 1, they're all over the deck. It's hard to train and operate the gun when your fantail's covered in boats. And 2, they're flammable. They're made out of wood, and they often have gasoline-powered engines in them. So super flammable. You want them off the ship so that she's only got a pair of 26-foot motor whaleboats and a pair of 14-foot punts. They can hold, in theory, 44 sailors. in practice, that's not your lifeboats or anything. That's more for going around and moving to and from in port, moving between the fleet. The punts might even be used for things like painting the boat or shark watch when you've got the crew in the water for swimming, stuff like that. Let's see. First, let's look at more or less the bottom center of the page. This has a list of the berths and the lockers. And what's cool here is it is showing both berths and hammocks. And it shows specifically on which deck everything is. Interesting. This is showing the berths only going up 2 superstructure decks, but on New Jersey, we have bunks as high as the 06 level. And this only shows beds as low as 3rd deck, but we have some all the way down on 7th deck inside one of the gun turrets. So that may or may not be on the blueprints as designed. That might be an unauthorized ship alt, as they say. So it is showing berths for 2,455 people. It's also showing room to sling 230 hammocks. On the older, like Pearl Harbor era battleships, those ships still had hammocks. Every sailor is still issued a hammock when they join the Navy, and they wrap their sea bag in their hammock and carry it on the ship. You get a really great depiction of this in the Sand Pebbles when Steve McQueen has his all triced up and he's carrying it to San Pueblo, his new ship. So it's really interesting seeing those numbers, and that not only do the Iowa-class battleships have the beds on board, but for the larger crew, they also have the capacity to hang hammocks. And we still have found hammock hooks in some places around the ship, particularly on the mess decks. So that's pretty interesting. It's showing that here. Although the number of beds and hammocks shows a number that is lower than the total crew complement, which is interesting. This is showing a total crew complement a little bit higher than what I've always heard they were rated for as built, but also lower than what I've heard that they had mid-war when they've got all the new radars, anti-aircraft guns, the admiral staff, all of that on board. So let's look at these positions real fast. This is the complement for the ship as a division flagship. So you've got one admiral assigned, which makes it a flagship, one captain, which is interesting. Realistically, I would expect another lower-ranked admiral or captain to be the admiral's chief of staff, but this is showing just one captain, who I guess is the ship's CO. It's showing 4 Marine officers, 6 aviators. The ship was rated to carry 3 aircraft, so 2 pilots per isn't out of the realm of the possible. Other commissioned officers, 74. Warrant officers, 11. A total of 97. That seems pretty low for one of these ships plus flag staff. Oh, interesting. Okay, so on the enlisted personnel side, you've got the ship's company, which is 60 chief petty officers and 1,997 other enlisted sailors. Those are your regular ratings doing all the shipboard stuff. Your Marine detachment is going to be 3 chief petty officers and 91 others. That's a pretty large Marine detachment. It's larger than the ship would have had at other times during her career. And you're adding 4 Marine officers to that as well. I wonder if that is just collectively the ship's MARDET, or if the Admiral's staff includes his personal Marine escort. That doesn't show up here itemized, so I'm not sure what the deal is there. Flag staff, 4 chief petty officers and 41 others. So these would be guys like the Admiral's yeoman, the Admiral's radioman, those sorts of positions. So we are accounting for a flag staff of at least 45 enlisted personnel, plus the Admiral and an unknown number of these officers. and an aviation detachment of 3 chief petty officers and 18 other sailors. So these would be your maintenance folks, your mechanics, those sorts of folks. The ship's company is assigned to the ship. They do the jobs on the ship. The Marine detachment will often come from some other larger unit, and those might rotate. Especially if the ship goes into the yard, the Marine detachment might cross decks to another ship that's going to be active. In theory, not so much during World War II, but more in the World War I time period, and certainly earlier, Age of Sail and that sort of stuff. The Marines from various ships would all form landing parties that would then be organized similar to traditional land armies, infantry units. So that you've got essentially a company strength from each ship. So your battleship division, 2, 3, 4 battleships, you might pair 2 divisions together to get a full regiment strength out of it. Your flag staff, of course, is with the admiral. So if the admiral has to change from one ship to another, if this one is heavily damaged and he shifts his flag to another ship, if this one's going into the yard for repairs, he shifts his flag to another ship. They are separate. And then your aviation detachment, of course, those come from a larger squadron, which will be dividing its planes up among the various ships, often in a squadron or division of ships. And those might change from deployment to deployment. So that brings us to a total complement of 2,217 enlisted, 97 officers, and a total of 2,314 as rated in January of 44, when Iowa and New Jersey are just reaching the Pacific, and Missouri and Wisconsin are just getting put in commission, still doing shakedown stuff. So it is interesting to see all this information here. I'm really excited to go through the rest of this booklet of general plans and see how things are different from New Jersey, how things are different from how Missouri is actually completed and deploys. That's one of my favorite things to check out. What sort of information in this booklet of general plans would you like us to cover in a future episode? We have done one on the ship's 1980s booklet of general plans. Check that out. Let us know if you'd like to see anything on other Iowa-class BGPs. Download this, keep it for your personal files, print it out at Kinko's. These things are great. I love them. I have a set hanging in my bedroom. I have sets from various time periods hanging in my office here at work. But let me know some cool things you find in there down in the description below. Battleship New Jersey receives operating support from the New Jersey Department of State, also from a number of other businesses and private individuals like yourselves. We really appreciate your support. There's a link in the description below if you'd like to continue donating to support the museum. It gives us the free time to dig around to find resources like this that help us advance our knowledge of our own ship. You can also support us by liking, sharing, and subscribing so more people find about the museum and our channel. Thanks for watching.